Now, I'm sure I won't speak as well as the politicians that are trying to do so. But the one thing that I love about this morning, it's not the amount of money donated, but it's the fact that the largest contribution to children's health in New South Wales hasn't come from a large corporation, hasn't come from an overseas business. It's come from a registered club in our local community. So on behalf of the 275,000 community members, the 1,000 staff, our volunteer board of directors that lead us and guide us in the ways that we support our community, I am so proud to deliver such an outcome. So there's over 1,200 clubs in New South Wales now, and they were created for different reasons, whether it was rugby league or lawn bowls or remembering the RSL traditions. Today makes me really proud that Mounties Group has always stayed loyal to the fact that we were one of that only 4% created to make our community a better place. We're a profit for purpose organisation. We're a business that every cent of money we make comes from our members, and every cent of profit we make is given away to make our community a better place for people to live. So whether that's the fastest rescue helicopter in New South Wales with Care Flight, whether it's the buildings that we help with Street University and the Knopf Foundation to reduce youth crime, I don't think there is anything that is more important that will have a bigger impact than the $13 million we contribute to the Mounties Care Cottage. It's possible because we're a community organisation. It's possible because 3.7 million people a year choose our venues to use as a channel for their funds to support their community. It's possible because we're led by a volunteer board of directors that are elected from the local community to represent their interests. And it's possible because our 275,000 members were given an opportunity to partner with the amazing people of Ryan, Karen and the GWS Giants to bring a community together to make a positive difference for decades to come. I need to say a special thank you to the Board of Directors of Mounties, to the Giants Foundation and to Chris Minns, Ryan Park and the New South Wales Government for setting a new example. For setting an example that when a community, a sporting team and a government work together, the things that people say can't be done or will take years and years to deliver are all of a sudden possible in the immediate future. To the New South Wales Government, thank you. Thank you for seeing that we can achieve so much more in partnership than we can individually. To Ryan and Karen, thank you for bringing together all of these parties to make your own dream come true, but to open a door for so many families to benefit in the future ahead. To the Giants and the Giants Foundation, this was not possible without you. We thank you so much for partnering with us. For those that told us it would take us 5 years, I'm so proud that Aniki Andronicus and her board pushed it so hard that it would happen within 2 or 3. And finally, to the families. To the families that are going to use Mounties Care Cottage, we understand that we can't make things better. We understand that we can't improve your situation. But we do hope that Mounties Care Cottage can help you create loving memories, make your journey a little easier, and retain your community connections with your family and friends around where you live rather than having to travel the other side of Sydney. We understand that you are going through a tough time, and we just want you to remember that the Mounties Care Cottage is just one symbol to say that Mounties and our entire community are with you and caring for you along your journey. Thank you.
All happy to take questions.
Ryan, there's probably some technical questions
just
about the building itself. How many families are going to be able to accommodate it here? And I guess just from the supplementary, in terms of its location, I mean, Bear Cottage is not at a hospital, nor is Hummingbird, nor is the Adolescent House in Manly. How do you make this not feel like a hospital?
Yeah, really good questions. The planning work will and the design work will now begin, but it will be able to service hundreds of families each year in the same way Bear Cottage does. Importantly, will have its own exclusive entrance, so people won't have to go through a hospital. We deliberately wanted it close to a major hospital, and obviously a major children's hospital, because these young people still need care, often when they are in here. So we needed it to be able to be facilitated in a way that didn't require them to go big distances away from here. Essentially, we want this place to be a home away from home in every single way possible, but still having that clinical care close by. So this will be transformative. It won't be an area that looks necessarily like a hospital at all. It will be one that hopefully people come in and feel in the same way that when you go to Bear Cottage, you feel like it's a big house and a big home, even though that clinical care is there. And we needed to partner with Catherine and her team from the Children's Hospital Network and the clinicians here at Westmead, but at the same time making sure through the generous donations of Mounties and GWS and everyone that it was truly a home away from home. And we hope that that's what we create.
Is Bear Cottage able to meet demand until the new hospice is built?
Yeah, it is, but the reality is, I think Mike touched on this, Southwest and Western Sydney are home now to millions of people. And of course, in an ideal world, none of us would like these services to exist, but we need them. And to ask people who are already facing the most difficult days of their life to travel huge distances to be able to access this care and to access that home away from home, it's not realistic. And when Mike and I sat down and he explained to me the concept and the work that the foundation was doing, we talked about the opportunity and where it might be located. We looked at a variety of different options, but we landed at Westmead because it is in the heart of Western Sydney, but importantly it is close and in contact with one of the best children's hospitals in the world. And we wanted to be able to create that home away from home, but still provide that world-class care when it's needed. Now that'll be a part of the design. Ryan and Karen will be instrumental in what this facility looks like. We will be making sure we engage with Bear Cottage and parents who are doing this and experiencing this and who have experienced this to make sure we get this right. This is a unique investment. It's not like anything else we do in a hospital. This is only the second of its kind in New South Wales, so we want to get this right. We don't build these every year, is the reality. And from here, we want to try and make sure we create that home away from home.
Given the profound impact that Bear Cottage has, is there a surprise that it's taken so long to have something for the West?
Probably is. Yeah, probably is. It's no doubt been a challenge for governments of all persuasions over the last 10 or 15 years. Having an opportunity, to be blunt, to sit with Mike Baird, who had experience like Christina, all the challenges that government has to offer and has to bring and you have to deal with, was important for me, because it was an opportunity to work out a navigation and how we could do this. And the way in which we landed it was we needed to use multiple levels of support. Obviously we needed government support, that was clear, but we needed the local Children's Hospital Network, and through Catherine and her team have been supportive. We needed the philanthropic support through Mounties, and we needed the foundation to get behind us and try and get that money and get that support from groups like the Giants across the board. So what we tried to do, I suppose, was work out how we were going to do this very early on. And the way we were going to do this was trying to bring those groups together. We needed to make sure that it stood up and was justified. It clearly was, from the fact that the growing numbers of people who call Western Sydney home, but we can't wait for this to happen. It is, unfortunately, a much needed service. And for those of us who've spent any time at Bear Cottage, and probably more importantly for someone like me, had an opportunity to speak with the families and young people who call that place their home away from home, it was pretty clear to me that I needed to play my role and do whatever I could to see those groups come together to leverage that investment and deliver what I think will be an incredible legacy for Rio, but also for Ryan and Karen.
Can I ask a question to Ryan and Karen,
yep.
if I can, just about the needs of these facilities? As Ryan just said, this is taken in New South Wales, but there's currently our country, you know, but construction is starting on in WA. Is this finally recognition that these sorts of children's hospices and these home away from home are actually really needed? Because previously it's felt like it's been, they haven't been there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's been a big push, and I know, you know, speaking with Christina and Mike and the government, but also Catherine Cox and her team, the network around paediatric palliative care, and I think a lot has probably changed from when we were in hospital and what happened and how we went there, and I think it's now the opportunity that's going, okay, we can strike. The government was willing to go, yep, we need to do something here, because we had a doctor say to us 10 years ago, when Rio first got sick, and he said, yeah, this is a neglected side of medicine. And we had the emergency doctor say that to us, and he was an amazing man, amazing doctor at the hospital. But he said, this is a neglected side of medicine that needs, and that's why we said, okay, we need to do something. You know, you're right, there's only 3 in the country. There's over 54 in the UK. Families having to travel interstate, they shouldn't have to do that. So this is a big push now to move forward and go, yeah, New South Wales is growing, they need this out here, and I think it's a good opportunity now, hopefully, to move forward and give the care that these families need. And the network has done amazing, I think, in my conversations with Catherine and the team around really making their journey in hospital, but then if needed to go to a place like this, truly transform, as we said, but also just there for the family. So,
what was it about Bear Cottage that made your journey a little bit?
Our time in hospital with the nature of Rio's illness was pretty chaotic and traumatic. We were doctors were left guessing a lot with what was happening. It was very reactive care rather than proactive, because it was just an unknown illness. So there was a lot of, now you're in this room, now you're in this room, daughter going home on a bus with grandparents. We couldn't be together, we couldn't sleep beside Rio, didn't know where food would come from, where we would shower, how long he had to live, who we were meeting when. So we were really in a hyper-arousal kind of state. It was very distressing, and a few weeks earlier we didn't even know we had a sick child. So life was really flipped upside down. And the hospital were doing what they needed to, trying to prolong his life and rescue him, you know, with what was happening. But they got to a point where they were like, we can't keep doing this. His arteries are closing over, his life will end. Are you going to take him home, or where are you going to go? I said, I don't know where I'm going to go. And someone said, there's a place called Bear Cottage. And we did a tour, and we were like, let's go there. And we got our own room, and there were no uniforms, there were no machines, there was no reactive care. It was about comfort, and it was about being together and just soaking him in as much as we could before we said goodbye. We sat outside in the grass, which he hadn't done for 2 months. I walked into the water and held him just like a normal mum. Someone fed us, someone did our washing. Remy slept next to her brother on the bed, and our family were really just gelled back together and did so much healing and grieving before we said goodbye. So I'm not sure if that paints a picture of the difference between hospital and Bear Cottage, but it was really magnificent for us on our life journey to have experienced that, and we just didn't want any families to miss out on that opportunity to be really kind of swept around and nurtured for in those final days. And it provides respite care as well for really high acute needs.
And palliative care is a big word, and unfortunately my family, I went through that with my mum. So when they said my son, the doctor said, we can't save your son, that's a tough thing to do. And palliative care, unfortunately, you straight away go to, this is it, we're giving up. And I must admit, when we were going to Bear Cottage, I was against it, because I was like, we're giving up on my son. But I can't describe exactly what Karen said. What they did, not only for my boy, but for my whole family, for my daughter, for my wife. You know, we first got there, and one of the volunteers said to my wife, how would you like a cup of tea? Frankie was there. There was a dog that we looked after and would walk around. The family, they just put us back together, and that's irreplaceable. And what they did in palliative care, and we went there in a tsunami. Rio got sick quite quickly, and we didn't know what was going on. But then we met other families who have been using Bear Cottage for years, and they've got nowhere else to go. But this is the place that looks after them, supports them, gives them that respite. So it's one of those things going, palliative care is more than just end of life. It is support that we give to everyone in a family. My daughter, Remy, she loves going back to Bear Cottage. Hospital is amazing, but when the hospital, they can't help you out anymore, that's what you understand, going, well, where do we go? And if home's not an option, or if you need a bit of support, that's where a place like Bear Cottage, and now Mounties Care Cottage, is going to give that, because they need that in that time of life.
to Mike to touch for us. Mike, since leaving public office, you've had a lot of roles. You've been quite busy. Why did you take on this particular? Why did you want to be, say yes to being the patron of Rio's eldest year?
Well, you've just heard from Ryan and Karen. I mean, they're two young people that have been in circumstances that, as parents, none of us can imagine. And they not only dealt with that in the most graceful, wonderful way, but they're determined to give every other family in this country, not just here in Western Sydney, but in the country, the opportunity to receive the support that you just heard about. So, as I said, when I went into public life, my life was impacted in many different ways, but walking into Bear Cottage, I was never the same again. In terms of seeing what our volunteers do, what our staff do, what the clinical care that's provided, but that wonderment of life and celebration of life, those memories that Ryan and Karen created are with them forever. So to have the opportunity to support Ryan and Karen in any way was a very easy decision.